because of me being sick, there's going to be a lot less talking today than normal. And I normally do one of these every year anyways. So today's about human potential. There's going to be a lot of videos demonstrating what has been that we thought was impossible and what is now, which is possible. So, this is, well, what it says, ancient brass, but these are antique instruments. These are pre-Baroque era, and it was in the church tradition. So this was literally the first form of what we know as brass today. There were other forms that had mouthpieces and instruments, things called serpent horns or didgeridoos or things like that used the same techniques, but weren't in the form of what we know of today. So. Simple harmonies, simple melodies, and no vowels. And in fact, this was even more advanced than some of the first operas that were written, or first oratorios. Most of those brass instruments, the only thing that had a movable pitch controlled on the instrument was the sackbut, which is the predecessor of the trombone. Trumpets, French horns were no cylinder. I mean, all it was a tube. It was a bugle. To change keys, you would take out one slide and put in another, changing the entire key, but everything else was in the overtone series. So a lot of classical pieces, well not classical, but a lot of Baroque pieces featured instruments that had no vowels on them. So skipping forward, last Wednesday at APU was a group called Nozzle Brass. They're from Austria. They've been performing for 20 years. They're all college friends, and they play at such a level that they can also add in comedy. So, yeah. Patch of two frogs. Yeah, so they went from didn't think in any way, shape, or form you could change notes without a slide, nor could anything be, well, non-harmonious to normal church standards, but we've progressed even more than that. So the next video I'm going to show is just, as you all know about the Wright brothers, at least I hope you all do.
They and everyone else had faced was how to generate enough power to get the machine off the ground and to keep it going once it was up in a stable and steady flight. The Wrights had developed a lightweight 25 horsepower engine which provided a much higher power to weight ratio than anything that had gone before.
That was like 25 horsepower? That's less than modern lawnmowers.
With this, and a little help on the launch site from a heavy lead weight, they were airborne and away.
That was all we could achieve.
Vous avez un couteau si jamais pour couper ça. Ok Brian, AM7. Oui, c'est un petit peu dur.
So, by the way, he's called the Jet Man, if you want to look him up. Solo, single wing, self-propelled backpack, more or less. He controls everything using his arms and his head. If he arches his back, he goes up. If he looks down, he goes down. By himself. So, a little over 100 years ago, we used a lawnmower engine to get 15 feet off the ground. This guy solo flies. So, it's funny when people say, I can't do that, or that's impossible, because nothing is impossible until someone does it. If you talk to anyone over the age of 70, and you ask them about what they would have thought about cell phones when they were 10 or 15, they would have thought you were crazy. How many people have seen that commercial for the Google Watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how they're showing all those sci-fi movies where they're talking into a watch and everyone thought that was like way out of this world? And now we sell them. I can't describe it enough, there is no can't. And the reason why I like to give this speech is because too often I feel like in the world you hear the word, you can't do that. Mom and Dad, I want to go to college for art. You can't do that, you won't make any money. Mom and Dad, I want to go to college for bioengineering. You flunked biology twice. You hear I can't so many times that oftentimes it gets ground into your head and it handicaps you for the rest of your life. And what I'm trying to say is there is no can't. Some of the biggest inventions in the world, some of the most successful people in the world have failed so miserably that they've lost count of how many times they've failed. So we've gone from flight. This is a brief video about the first man that went into space. There's no talking. I just want you to see the beginning part of this. I want you to think about how big this rocket is for one person with nothing but life support. You have no way to control the rocket. He had a couple switches to disengage the rocket from him, and he had a switch to release the parachute once he entered the atmosphere. And he went into space on that rocket. Watch this cockpit, he gets in there. That's within some of your grandparents' generation. They went as the first person to go into space, and that's his cockpit right there. He doesn't have any fancy gauges. He doesn't have even enough computer to tell him where he's at. They didn't even have communication with him until he came back down. He got launched into space with nothing but a rocket in him. I'm sure some of you have seen this.
Lois.
It's in the highest atmosphere. He was the first unpropelled human being to break the sound barrier. And he fell from the edge of space and Earth's atmosphere with nothing but a balloon. 60 years ago, we required an entire rocket to send one person up. Today, we put a guy in a balloon and dropped him from space. 60 years ago, the Russians would have thought he was crazy. We're going to put a guy in a balloon and drop him from space, and he'll end up fine. They would say, no way, impossible, can't happen, at all. There's no physical way to survive. 60 years. The time it took for, like I said, some of your grandparents to exist, and we dropped a guy from space. From nothing to dropping him from space. So, the reason why I like to do this speech, and I said that before, but there's a problem we have in our educational system. We continuously tell students that that's not possible, you can't do that, that's not enough, colleges won't accept that, you need to do more. You hear that all the time from teachers. It's part of why our education system is just broken. We're constantly pushing you to a benchmark that's not universal. So what I'm saying is, in order for the world to continue to change, you have to be willing to do something of which there is no benchmark for. So, most of you know my story, but when I graduated high school, I am 31, I graduated high school in 2000, I went to community college for 3 years, and then I dropped out because I thought I was going to make it in the coffee business. I was working at Starbucks at the time, and they offered me an assistant manager position, and I took it, and I thought that was going to be it. I was going to climb the corporate ladder, and that would be my life. And I worked in the coffee industry for 7 years. No school, and at the same time I was working other schools, some of it, and then here, most of that time, as a part-time thing, ignoring the fact that I wanted to teach. And in fact, my favorite parts of working in the coffee shop were when I was teaching. When I was teaching customers on coffee tastings and pairings, or the qualities of tea, or how different coffees get their flavor, or instructing our employees on how to pull a perfect shot, or make a perfect latte, or steam milk. Teaching was my favorite part of the job, and I just kind of ignored it until one day Mr. Niemeyer offered me a chance to come work here and go back to school. But it took that for me to realize where my passion was. Some of you, I'm sure, have passions that people don't understand and that you feel you have no support in. About 3 weeks ago, I'm almost done with my college now. I'm at a point where I'm looking for credential programs and I'm looking for a school to go to. And that's the route that I'm logically supposed to go. I'm logically supposed to go and get a school and lead a life. But there's something that's been bothering me for a couple years. No, longer than that, for a long time. I grew up with drumstick. I have impulse tattooed on my arm, and I have a passion for that community. And I'm finding my calling is driving me back there. Now, why I'm saying this, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be, and I don't know what it entails, but there's something in me that says I need to go back into that world, and soon. I'm not going to go into what that entails, but there's something about it that's calling me back to it. And I'm terrified, because I've never run a nonprofit. I've never been involved with a nonprofit other than recruiting for impulse funds and being on their food crew. I have no idea what the infrastructure would look like. I have no idea how to even begin. But there's something in me that tells me to go that direction. And all I can tell you is that I will try. When, I'm not sure. Because that's a conversation I need to have with people around me as I go into the future. But I'm going to try something that people are going to think I'm crazy for. I'm absolutely crazy for. But I'm going to try it. Because the people who are often looked at as crazy end up changing the world. I'm not saying I want to change the world, but I've seen it happen too many times to not follow where my passion is. So as seniors who are looking forward to college, juniors and sophomores, as people start barraging you with where do you want to go and what do you want to do, and freshmen as this whole journey begins, find your passion. And no matter what your passion is, pursue it. Because the people who are in their jobs that they're passionate about are happier, they live longer, they have happier families, they live high quality lives because they like what they do on a daily basis. Don't let go of that, no matter what it is. Because if you put it off to the side, you'll end up like I did 5 years ago, working in a coffee shop but not really knowing why I'm there or what I really want to do. It wasn't until I got called back to teaching that I found that this is where I want to be. I want to teach. That part of me needs to be filled. And I've gone through hell to get this. Don't give up on your dreams. Because nothing is impossible. So, as you think, and as we move forward, and as the season progresses and a couple more building people for other speeches and all that good stuff, try and find what you're passionate about. And I'm not talking about boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend. I'm not talking about the drama that my first couple speeches were about. I'm not talking about guilt or being an amazing person. Those are all important. What I'm talking about is what is your call in life? What resonates in you? And for everyone, something does. You can't tell me something doesn't connect with you. Because I know something connects with everyone. You may not know what it is yet. It may take time to get there. But when you find it, pursue it with all that you can. And don't let people tell you you can't. Because oftentimes they'll be the people looking at you afterwards and going, holy crap, they did it. So, we got another video, of course.
After being cut from his high school basketball team, he went home, locked himself in his room, and cried. He wasn't able to speak until he was almost 4 years old, and his teachers said he would never amount to much. Was demoted from her job as a news anchor because she wasn't fit for television. Fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no original ideas. At age 11, he was cut from his team after being diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency, which made him smaller in stature than most kids his age. At 30 years old, he was left devastated and depressed after being unceremoniously removed from the company he started.